Welcome to She Coaches Coaches, the podcast where we have thoughtful, honest conversations about what it really takes to build a thriving coaching business. I'm your host, Candy Motzek, and before building my business, I spent years as a senior corporate leader. Now, today, I work with coaches who are smart, well-trained, and deeply capable, and who want clarity about how to grow in a way that feels aligned and financially sustainable. On this show, I sit down with successful coaches to explore the real decisions behind their success, how they got started, what shifted as they grew, and the mindset and business choices that helped them gain momentum without burning out. Whether you're early in your coaching journey or refining a business you've already built, She Coaches Coaches is here to offer perspective, confidence, and grounded insight to support your next chapter. To learn more about how I work with people, go to my website, stepintosuccessnow.com. And now let's dive in. Hey everyone, and welcome back to this episode of She Coaches Coaches. I have a fabulous guest here for you today. I met her a number of months ago when she interviewed me for her Substack show. Her name is Margaret Williams, and she works with marginalized leaders who are successful on paper, but often carry an invisible load behind the scenes. She helps leaders reclaim internal authority, make their impact visible, without having to self-edit, code switch, or self-erase, and she helps them navigate systems of power with clarity and confidence. Margaret is a certified executive leadership coach and systemic team coach with a master's in industrial and organizational psychology. After a 39-year career with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, she now partners with leaders through her company, Intuitive Professional Coaching, and she hosts The Empowered Leader, a podcast and Substack for those who are ready to lead with freedom, influence, and real impact. Welcome to the show, Margaret. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much. I am honored to be here with you today. I just want to say that I really, really enjoyed our conversation on on the Empowered Leader because that was one of my first interviews that I'd done, and the chemistry that we had during that interview really spoke volumes of who you are as a person and as a coach.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. So first, you live in Alaska, right? But that's the fun thing to begin with. You're the first person that I've ever interviewed who lives in Alaska. I've been there a couple of times. I've spent quite a bit of time in the Yukon, which is north, not quite as north as you, but it's a different kind of place to live. Now, I know you've got a very varied career. Can you tell me a little bit about your story, especially in the area of how you became a coach?
Oh, I knew one day that my Army civilian career would end. So I wanted to find something that was parallel to my service with the Army. So I came up with coaching, and it would allow me to help people, individuals as well as organizations, to overcome these challenges faced in their organizations that impact marginalized leaders like myself. Okay. And being able to help them rise and be able to break through the glass ceiling. Because during my career, that's something that I was never able to achieve with the organization after having moved 8 times. So that's where I am today. And I am very proud of my career and the time that I spent with the Army. Okay. And if I had it all to do over again, I'd do the same thing because we all face challenges and roadblocks, regardless of what organization you work for in the world. Many of these things are systemic that we see across various industries, various sectors.
Agreed. And, the phrase marginalized leaders, I think really speaks volumes. If you are a marginalized leader, you know it. But there might be some people that listen to this that don't really know what you mean by that. Could you dive a little bit deeper on that?
Well, working for the military and working in a non-traditional field, when you go into these organizations, the majority of people that you see are white, male. Okay. Things are starting to change somewhat to a degree. You start to see more women, but you're seeing white women. This I am not racist at all. Okay. I'm just telling you what I see. And then you make your decisions. People like, for example, the last organization I worked for, in the building that I worked, there was only two of us. And we both decided to leave at the same time.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, and so when I look around, you see who's getting what. You see who's getting all the bonuses. You see who's getting all the promotions. You see who's getting all of the recognition. And for me, I was held to a different standard.
I think this is probably one of the reasons that we had a great conversation last time. I just went for lunch not too long ago with a woman that I'm reconnecting with from my early university days. We were both females in engineering, and in those days, it was 2% women in engineering. This is a big school. We were at the University of British Columbia. It's a big school, big engineering department. 2% women in massive lecture halls. It's really obvious that you don't look the same as everybody else. And then coincidentally, it took me a while, okay? Sometimes I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but it took me a while to realize that I was actually the only woman of color for my entire 5-year degree. And I was like, wow, I looked really different. At the surface, it seems like no big deal. The individuals that, that I was alongside, and this went along with my corporate career as well, each individual, very genuine, good people. And yet there is still this thing that happens when you look different. You are sometimes held back as you prove yourself and get more education and more training, where a peer with less skills and less obvious ability is moved forward. Sometimes there's a, internal political piece there. And sometimes it's the piece that I've been doing a lot of work with my clients on is imposter syndrome. Where is imposter syndrome? Where is it an internal habit that you've created, a high achiever who doesn't quite feel like they belong? And where is imposter syndrome actually a valid response to a situation where you do look very different from those around you? So it's kind of an odd question. And this is one of the things that I'm really interested about your coaching and how you work with these leaders, because they're educated, they're capable, they're high achievers, they're certainly able to do more, and they are ambitious and would like to do more. And yet there is something in the way. It's not always at the individual level, it's at the systemic level. And I think that that's the place that's really, it's hard to untangle. So how do you work with your folks? Because coaching in this position it's an odd niche, a very needed niche, but it's an unusual niche.
I'm glad you mentioned that because this is the dilemma. We all hurting from some type of past trauma. And as you and I know, these things are part of therapy, not coaching. So how can you separate them when a person comes to you with these issues? You turn them away, or you sit there and hold space for them. Sometimes just holding space for an individual can be so healing. I just can't tell you, even for myself, like you said, that is alone. And just to be able to pick up the phone and call somebody that can listen to you can sometimes be the difference between somebody committing suicide and somebody having the will to take the next step forward in a positive way.
The other piece that I have noticed is this idea that women, marginalized leaders, are often told that they need to do more internal work, that they need to do more therapy to heal themselves. And it's like you need to do all the healing before you can move forward. And yet, there are countless individuals who have moved forward despite being deeply unemotionally intelligent, not necessarily that motivated. So the marginalized person is told to do their healing, do their work, do their personal work. There's all this explanation to do all of this. And then you've got on the other side If I was a 6 foot tall white man, that isn't even a consideration. Like you would never tell somebody, well, you've got to go and work on your emotional intelligence before we'll put you forward for that next project. We don't see that. So it's, there's the therapy is always a good idea. I think every one of us who has made it to adulthood needs it. Coaching is, again, it's one of those things that allows you to step forward from here to a larger future of what you want. How do we look at sort of deprogramming that idea that we have to fix ourselves and have to do the therapy before we're ready to move? So do you see this with the marginalized leaders that you work with? This deprogramming, like, no, you don't have to go and take all this personal development before you're ready to take the next level as an analyst, for example.
I agree because when you talk about marginalized leaders, that's me. So I know that I have to do this work as baby steps. I have to be accountable. I have to be responsible for my actions. I have to be in alignment with my values, with what I know is true. Okay. We have to start a lot of times at the beginning. I mean, to do the work, because if you put class on top of it, if you put all these other things on top of it, if you're not on a firm foundation, it's not going to stand.
So then it sounds like you go back to the core of coaching. Values, purpose, what do you want? Allowing them to be in a place where they can be heard. For those of you that are listening just to the audio, you're going to see, if you would watch the video, you're going to see Margaret clapping with that. Going back to the basics of coaching, what's the power of coaching in this situation?
It helps us to understand what's important,
Mm.
starting to put ourselves first, loving ourselves, respecting ourselves, all of these basic virtues that maybe we lost along the way. Maybe we weren't taught these things. Okay, it's like a garden, nurturing and cultivating a garden. When you show people that you care about them, that you truly, genuinely care about their well being, it's about building rapport, going back to that, building rapport, finding out what you have in common, and being that bridge. And so from that place, people start to see things differently. Oh, I can trust someone. Someone does care about me. Somebody here has my back. I didn't have any of that. But people need that in order to feel safe. These are the foundations, the building blocks of building relationships. Any relationship, whether it's personal, business, okay? And once people understand going back to the basics and implementing these steps and these iterative steps and building these habits, you build momentum, you build your courage, your confidence, and giving you the perseverance to seek higher level goals.
As you're describing how you're working with people, the values, creating rapport, creating a safe presence, a place where somebody believes in them, even when the days are tough, that we don't get to move up in an organization when we quit. And so, like how you were talking about you and one other person in an entire building and you basically left at the same time, you need that resilience to be able to stay. And coaching is one of those things that can help you have that resilience to not get so ground down that you feel your best option, not your only option, because we've always got lots of options, but your best option is to go somewhere else.
Yes, and sometimes even me have stayed places too long and given too much and got nothing in return. And then after you retire, before you retire, you're forced out because you have too much knowledge and they refuse to pay you for that
Sorry.
knowledge. Yeah, right? Because they're all threatened by you anyway. So what's the best thing to do? To get rid of you, the problem. That's the way it works.
Have you really noticed a difference in at the organizational level versus the interpersonal level? Like what I found is that individually people were wonderful, but there was an organizational sort of rigidity or structure that at times was the harder place to shift.
Yes, I see I see a lot of things, and while I'm seeing all these things, I'm preparing myself for my next steps because I know that the system was set up for us to fail. It was. And so once you recognize and I realized my worth, it was worth walking away because they knew my worth, but they kept pushing me down because they didn't want to allow me to go up and to break through that glass ceiling. It was not going to be allowed. They told me that the first week I was there.
They actually said
So
that?
when somebody tell you that I don't care what you did past past times, you're here now, and this is what is going to happen. So you have to be able to read between the lines. Not only that, you can tell by a person's body language that they really don't like you.
Yeah.
But you recruited me, okay, and I'm highly qualified for the job, but you're not going to let me exactly. And that's what I understood.
What do you think is, like, to me, the natural progression is that there's going to be a lot of marginalized leaders who just leave organizations and create their own businesses. What do you think?
Do because as these systems collapse, okay, they're going to need smart people like me and you to bring in new systems, new people, new ideas, and take it over. Since you say we were incompetent and you didn't want to pay us what we were worth, okay, now you're going to have to pay us that and more because we have learned new skills. We're not just coaches,
Yeah.
okay? So when you underestimate us, that gives us the fuel. Okay, we need to overcome this systemic racism. It's not just racism; it's also sexism too. Now you create chaos
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
keep division because we're all fighting each other. But what are we fighting against? What are we fighting each other for?
Nothing. We're for nothing, for a place at the table. For a place at the table. It's just infighting. It's a waste of energy. It's not actually creating value for the organization, right?
That's what they want. They want to keep us fighting among ourselves while they're keeping things for themselves, while they're taking everything, extracting everything for themselves and their legacy and their families.
How do you best support your clients to either stay resilient, stay where they're at, find a way to move up, find a way to shift organizations? Like, how do you support your clients best?
Support them holistically and realistically. I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing for them, okay? Because we talk about trust. We are a trusted individual. We're in this partnership. We meet the clients where they are. That's the thing. We have to align ourselves with the right clients
Mm.
that we can help to them to get the growth that they want to achieve. By them achieving their goals, we're also achieving ours as well.
So, all of your coaching really starts from that core, whether it's a team, their vision, mission, values, and goals, or whether it's an individual, or whether it's an individual within a team that you're coaching. It always comes back to, why are we here? What does this matter? What are we trying to achieve?
Absolutely.
How do you help them deal with conflict?
The thing of it is, when you're working with a team, it's important to know their weaknesses and their strengths. We're not going to be equipped to be good at everything. No one is. So you're only as good as your weakest link. So it behooves you to learn about each and every team member. So if we put all these things together, figure out, okay, then as a team, we're able to accomplish our mission with these things. There's going to be conflicts with people, but you have to understand, team dynamics and the personal things, okay? You have problems. Let's try to leave those outside. But sometimes you can't leave those problems outside, and those problems can affect the team.
Mm.
So understanding these things, having empathy and care and understanding, it goes a long ways. The thing is, you have to build the trust from the beginning. It's better that way. So you all can come in and learn and grow together. You're like, oh man, I'm sorry we had this conversation, it's a misunderstanding, but I thought about it and I see things differently, you know, and always put it back on the team and what part did you play in that situation? And what did you learn from it? How can you move forward in the future?
Does team coaching always include an element of individual coaching too?
Yes, I would say so because there's certain things that you don't want to say in front of the team and you want to address with the individual. Things can be very, very sensitive. Um, so it's easy for people to get alienated.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you have to just, you have to sometimes just use your intuition and figure out best to handle situation.
So, Margaret, as we get ready to wrap up, how can people find out more about you? Where do you show up online that they can learn more about you?
People can find me on Substack at the Empowered Leader publication. Yes, yes. And I'm also on LinkedIn
Yeah.
and I'm also on YouTube.
Excellent. And I have to say that on Substack, one of the things that I really have appreciated is your 30-day series. It's really powerful. It helps those leaders stay grounded. Great.
Thank you so much. And I really enjoy it. And I've enjoyed our conversation today.
Thanks so much, Margaret. It was great talking to you. All right, everyone. Really enjoyed this conversation with Margaret. Go check out her Substack. She's been doing a great job with that. And I will be back and speak with you again on the next episode. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of She Coaches Coaches. If this conversation resonated, take a moment to reflect on what stood out and how it connects to where you are right now. Coaching businesses grow through clarity and thoughtful choices, not pressure or hustle. If you'd like more support, you can learn more at stepintosuccessnow.com. I'll put the link in the episode notes. And if you found this episode helpful, I'd appreciate it if you would share it with a peer or colleague who would enjoy it as well. I appreciate you being here. Have a great day.